In Game of Thrones, Theon Greyjoy came full circle during the show's final season, leaving his broken past behind him to return to Winterfell and ultimately, heroically, dying at the hands of the Night King. I'm Rob Licuria, Senior Editor here at Gold Derby, and I'm here with Alfie Allen, who played fan favourite Theon. Alfie, first of all, congratulations on your Emmy nomination. Talk us through the morning of the announcement when you found out you were nominated.
Oh, thank you so much, man. So I was in the West End, and I was something from a shop, and I literally I got a text, I think, from my agent saying congratulations on the nomination, and I said, "Oh, amazing! You know, it's a group, right? It's for best drama or something." No, individually nominated, and I still am in shock about it. You know, it's I wasn't expecting it because all that had kind of faded into just ridiculousness that would even happen. I'm not going to lie. You know, when I kind of first started Thrones, there was definitely a kind of there was a part of me that was kind of like, oh, well, you know, maybe one day I'll get an opportunity to be up for an award or something. But all just kind of faded into just definitely wasn't going to happen. I literally, it wasn't. I didn't have any hope. It just wasn't realistic. And so, you know, for it to happen and. It's just insane. But yeah, I tried to call all of my family members, couldn't get through to any of them, and so I had a glass of champagne with the lady in the shop to celebrate it, and which she thought was really funny. And then I left and went to a screening of The Great Hack, and my phone kept on going off, and so I only made it through an hour of the screening and had to leave just to indulge in myself. And yeah, it was great. It was a day that I will never ever forget because it was just so. It just is mad. Not mad, but it was just unreal.
Yeah, isn't it lovely that you're nominated as a supporting actor alongside your castmates Peter and Nikolai, and after all that your character has been through, it's fitting that he's finally being recognised and you're being recognised. What does it mean to you to be recognised by the industry in this way?
Well, I think first and foremost, you know, it's even like just speaking to you now when you say fan favourite Theon, you know, that's nothing. I never heard those words throughout the whole 8 or 9 years when I was doing Thrones. The character was hated and almost, you know, reviled, I think is the right word to use. So to have the character kind of, you know, bow out on that moment of kind of honor and redemption and have the fans kind of go through that as well as myself go through it, is nice because it kind of, you know, means in turn, like you say, the fans now think I'm a favorite. So it's a nice feeling. But in terms of sort of, you know, career wise, I try not to see my career as a kind of point of trajectory. I just kind of, or trying to get to sort of one particular place because I just want to. I think I just want to enjoy myself really. And so I would say that to have my landscape sort of professionally does feel like it's changed somewhat, and I'm still having to pinch myself to just kind of to make sure it's all real, but it's great, you know, and I'm just so happy and just want to make sure that if I'm kind of going into a next kind of phase of my career that I treat it with respect, you know.
Yeah, and it's funny how if you look at fan reaction, as you say, sometimes Theon was reviled by fans and then sometimes he's loved. Everyone that I speak to loves the character, so I don't know what they're talking about, but it reminds me of the finale and the final season, how the fan reaction was mixed. Some people loved it, some people hated it. What were your thoughts on the reactions to the final season, and what did you think of it yourself?
I watched it all in one lot. So I recorded it on my digital box and then watched from episodes 1 to 6. Just all in one go. And yeah, I know there was a number of people, and obviously the numbers involved in Game of Thrones means that even if it's just a small number of people, it's still a lot of people who weren't happy with how it ended. And me personally, I only really caught on to that kind of like online reaction to it quite late on, because I just don't look at all that stuff. And so I thought that Dave and Dan did a good job. They must have been under immense pressure to get it right, and having lived with these characters and this world for so long, they must have been dying to get it right. And so I think that they did. They got a sort of HBO set out to do a kind of fantasy show, inverted commas, that was steeped in familial relationships, and that those were at the core of it. And so I think the last 3 episodes did that. It kind of rounded up those relationships that were so important to the story, and I didn't feel like it was done hastily. I didn't think it was crap, but I think some people did.
Yeah, I guess everyone's got an opinion, I suppose. But looking back over the whole series, and particularly the final episode for you, I was just thinking of some highlights. And for me, one of the best moments of the season was when Theon returned to Winterfell, turned to Sansa, and declared he wanted to fight for Winterfell. It's a really great scene how you both embraced, and so much appears to wash over your face, your character's face in that scene. Talk us through doing that scene and whether or not it was a highlight for you.
Yeah, it was. I think there was just so many genuine emotions floating around in the last season, because obviously it was the last season. So obviously, kind of seeing Sansa again was a massive thing for Theon, and I think that just to know that she was okay, and also have the kind of relationship of Daenerys and Sansa developing in the room at that same time. Theon's not akin to any of this knowledge, so I don't. In terms of, I always loved acting with Soph, because she just manages to just be listening to One Direction in her off. Sorry, that sounds really rude. I don't mean that, but she'll be kind of like listening to some music or some pop music or something, and then it just comes into scene and just bang, no effing about. She's just in there straight away, and to see that from someone who you kind of grew up with, and saw that she was a little girl, and now she's just like smashing these scenes in front of me. Was great.
Yeah, and then looking back a little earlier seasons, Theon succumbs to the evil Ramsay Bolton and becomes Reek, or submits as Reek. How difficult and challenging was it to play that difficult aspect of his character?
It was ultimately, taxing at times, because kind of going from Theon to Reek to this person who was Reek pretending to be Theon and then coming back to Theon, it was confusing at times, and also I think that there is. It was funny. I was on the plane on the way over, and this lady came up to me, and she went, what did she say? She was just like, "Oh my God, I've just been on the phone with my son, and I told him you were on the plane, and said that she was like, and I said I'm on the plane with Reek. I'm on the plane with Reek." And then his son went, "Mom, it's Theon. You have to call him Theon, okay?" And she was genuinely, kind of had to step back from what her son had told her. But she, so it was funny. But in terms of those sort of moments, they stayed with me, for a little. Not kind of going, but going home after set and just sort of still being in character. But those moments and how kind of fans react to them, they stay with you. And so equally, you know, now that the character is kind of in more of a kind of positive light. I know you say that it kind of always has been in a positive light, but to have that kind of turnaround is nice, because, you know, the fans kind of feel that way about me and the character. So yeah, those moments, those dark moments do stay with you, but the positive ones do as well.
And then thinking through the arc that your character takes over the seasons, you're quite lucky that you got a really nice arc. And as I said earlier, he's come full circle, and he's a really complicated and nuanced character. And I think a lot of what drives him from my perspective is his identity and who he is and who he wants to be and who he's aligned with. And how satisfying was it to play this guy who, by the end, was quite steadfast, resilient and strong? How did you feel at the end of it? Did you feel like you had come full circle?
I think he only really comes full circle in those last moments, you know. I still think he's kind of having that struggle up until his very, very last moments. And then, you know, morbid as it may be, but, you know, that's what they say, isn't it? Is that people kind of have those struggles their whole life. And then if you don't address them and try and do something about it and kind of take care of your mental health, you'll be on your deathbed and then kind of realize these huge sort of moments of clarity that you have when you've only got so much of your life left. So I think we all kind of owe it to ourselves to just to work through those things and not have an identity crisis.
Yeah, yeah. Watching the documentary about the show, and particularly the final episode, I found it really heartbreaking to watch the cast do that table read and kind of find out where certain characters were going to die. And it made me realise that these actors are really emotionally invested in what's happening with their characters and their friends' characters. Can you talk us through that dynamic, especially given that you were there from the beginning? As you said earlier, Sophie was just a girl. You were all so much younger and you've grown up together. How invested are you all in your characters and in your colleagues' characters?
Well, I would say I can't really obviously speak for anyone else, but for me, you know, there was certain characters kind of shared similar motivations to kind of, you know, obviously Jon Snow and Theon have that thing where they are both kind of going through the identity crisis and don't really know where their characters belong as people in the kind of the kind of role of being a highborn in the world of Game of Thrones. And so, you know, obviously mine and Gwendolyn's character actually kind of had the similar things in common in terms of having to kind of deal with certain layers that were quite how can I say, that were there for people to see, you know. And so also Jamie and Theon's character have that kind of same journey of you know, being these kind of cocksure entitled kind of brats to start off with, or perceived as that, and then they kind of go through this journey of this path of being humbled somewhat, you know. And so they kind of have to find the humanity within themselves through being broken down. And so I would say that well, I know I was emotionally invested in my character, but I think you know, I can't really speak for other people, but I know that I'm emotionally invested in other people's characters without a doubt, and that, yeah, that I think that's only a good thing.
And do you really miss the show and the cast, or were you happy to just kind of let that go and move forward?
I was happy to let that go and move forward. I'm not gonna miss the cast because they're my friends and I see them. So I always have contact with them. I'm gonna miss the feeling of going over to Belfast and feeling like we were all going to school. You know, that was great. But I am gonna miss that feeling because you literally are a very, 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 lucky person if you even have that in any kind of work environment that you're in. So to have that in the kind of scope of something like Game of Thrones and being an actor is something I'll never ever forget, and will be eternally grateful for David and Dan for making me a part of it, and George for creating the character and the characters in the first place. But I'm happy to move on, man. I'm definitely happy to move on.
I can imagine, like you were on the biggest show on the planet, and it's also a genre show. So fans of that particular of genre tend to be really crazy, or at least really invested. Have you found that your life has completely changed, and everywhere you go, people want to talk to you about Theon or Game of Thrones?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of think the accurate thing to say would be how it hasn't changed my life, because it kind of has in every respect. And I've not really had any moments of weird kind of fandom. If everyone's nice, I don't mind. You know, obviously people have kind of related to Theon's, you know, sort of trauma and his aspect, you know, his PTSD, and I think it's important that we all just talk about that openly moving forward, without a shadow of doubt. Yeah, no, I haven't. It's all just positive for me. I don't really see the negative in it. It's great.
Yeah, and the show now has received an historic 32 nominations. Much has been made about how you submitted yourself on the ballot along with Gwendolyn and Carice, and all three of you made the cut, which is so exciting. So is there a sense of vindication amongst yourself and your colleagues that this is the biggest show on the planet, it's got record-breaking Emmy nominations, and you'll probably all end up winning a bunch of them on Emmy night? You feel vindicated?
I feel that you know, it was hard. A lot of times going through it, it was hard because people might, like you say, one might be coming up to me and kind of saying, "Wow, man, you know, thank you so much. You've done such a great job." And obviously there's parts of myself that I don't really like watching myself on screen, and I'm not totally ever going to be 100% sure if people are, you know, are you saying this to me just because you're here and you're in front of me and you're being nice, or whatever, you know. So it's nice to have a kind of, you know, pat on the back from the Academy, from the people who vote for the Emmys. It does feel vindicating, and it feels like validation.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's worthwhile. And Alfie, we really appreciate your time today, and good luck on Emmy night. You never know what could happen.
Who knows, man? I know it sounds like a soundbite, but seriously, like 80% of it is just being there, and then I get to share it with people who are literally my really, really close friends. It's Cloud9 stuff, and I'm so thankful that I get to be there and say goodbye to it in a positive way. It's great.